Today we are going to continue something we started last year, which was is going to end up being a three-part. We're going to do part 3 of a 3-part series on personalization and how to use Ontraport to be more effective with your marketing by figuring out what your prospects are troubled by and communicating with them about specifically how you can help with those particular troubles. So here we go. We're going to move over to the slide deck for a second, and we're going to talk about where we're at. So again, we talked about in part 1 why being relevant matters. In part 2, we talked about how to get the data. These old videos, by the way, are here in Facebook in the units section, also on YouTube. We moved them over to YouTube within a few days, I think, right? A few days-ish of recording them. So you should be able to find them there. We talked about how to get the data you need to segment them, and now we're going to talk about how to use your tools and your data to deliver those higher quality, more relevant experiences. But first, an interlude. We want to talk about the difference between personalizing your communications and stalking. Because, and this is just important, because you have the power, using a tool like Ontraport, to really freak your prospects out and deliver a pretty creepy experience. So I just want to bring that up to put it in your mind that you do need to strike a balance between what you want to do, which is appearing in front of your audience with the solution to their problem as they are struggling with the problem, right? That's what you want to be doing. You'll notice that happens with the best marketing organizations on the internet. You're scrolling through Instagram or whatever, and all of a sudden you're seeing stuff that is relevant to you. You're like, oh man, I am interested in that particular shoe or whatever it might be. You'll notice it even more when you scroll through somebody else's Instagram and you see a whole bunch of crap that's not relevant to you. You're like, whoa, you're a weirdo. Why are you seeing these ads? That's what you want to be doing, right? You want to be showing up with the solution that's relevant to your audience. What you don't want to be doing is showing up saying, hey, I noticed you just visited my page. Because you're going to be able to trigger stuff based on page visits, based on email clicks. You don't want to look like you're actually stalking them, tracking their every move. That freaks people out and doesn't create the kind of affinity that you want to be creating with your audience. So just step back from I'm watching you, and keep it in the realm of I have a solution to your problem. All right, just a hot tip. So, where are we? We've decided that we are going to be a better marketer. We decided we're going to segment people based on problem, and then on stage, we learned how to get the data. We committed to stop stalking people. All right, how do you deliver a relevant experience? Well, you do it, of course, in your communication. You do it in emails, in texts, in phone calls. You also do it outside of communication in your websites, in ads. You can even do it in direct mail, whatever it might be. So in Ontraport, a lot of this kind of communication stuff happens in messages, right? So we have 3 different kinds of email editors. We have SMS messages. We have tasks, which are what we use to make sure your salespeople are calling up and delivering the right messages, or people on your team. And the way that we make sure that we're sending relevant messages is in campaigns and using conditions and goals. So. And the reason is because these 2 tools, conditions and goals, are the tools in campaigns that help you move contacts around the campaign based on their attributes and behavior, right? What's the difference between a condition and a goal? Well, a condition segments your list, right? Sends some people down the no path and other people down the yes path. And it does that at a certain moment in the campaign, right? As a contact moves through a campaign, and when they hit that particular condition, the system checks to see what the attributes are of that contact, right? Do we know they have this particular problem? What stage in the life cycle are they? And it then sorts people based on attributes in the contact record. And it does that when they hit the condition element in a campaign. A goal is similar, except for instead of nobody just kind of like runs down a campaign and hits a goal. Goals are triggered when an attribute in a contact record is changed, right? So every time a change happens to a contact record, the system runs through your campaigns and it says, do any of these goals or triggers, or are any of these goals or triggers triggered by the change that just happened in the contact record, right? So for example, if they just clicked on an email link, then the system will look through to see if you have any goals that are triggered by that particular email link click. And it will then do what it's set up to do when that happens. So for example, you might move somebody to this particular goal when an email link is clicked, or when they fill out a form, or when they purchase a product, or when your sales rep tags them with a particular problem, whatever it might be, that, you know, at that moment when that change is made, a goal can be triggered and you can move a contact to the goal, and then of course it goes directly down the path from there and continues on. So it'll send the next message or whatever it is. So multiple conditions element here. They're checking what's already so about your contact record at a particular time, and a goal is being triggered by changes in the contact record. It'll move it when those are triggered. So how do we actually put these together and use these in real life? Well, we have this concept called a recycler. And the recycler this is a simple recycler, and I'll get into the advanced recycler in a second. I'll show you in my account. I know you can't probably see exactly what these conditions and campaigns say, but I'll just kind of talk you through it here. Basically, what this does is, you know, what the goal is to communicate directly about the problem that a particular customer has, right? That's the goal. So this does it in a very simple way. There's a couple problems with it, which is why we created an advanced version. But I'll walk you through this one, and then I'll walk you through the advanced recycler in a second. So the first version, contact is added to my list, something like that, and then it basically checks. When that happens, they're gonna move down the list, and it says here, do these people have this particular problem? And I can't actually see what the problem is either. What does that say? Oops, I don't even know. Oh, it's cats. Do they have a problem with cats? If yes, then let's talk to them about cats, okay? And then if no, it goes down here and it says, well, okay, they don't have a problem about cats. Do they have a problem with Valentine's Day? If yes, then we're gonna add them to this campaign here about Valentine's Day. And if no, we're going to go down and check on something else. And it says, oh, do they have a problem with, other problems? Do they have, any other problems? Okay, well, then we'll talk to them about other problems. And if not, then we'll just talk to them about generic stuff, meaning I don't know what your problem is, but I'm just going to tell you about my business and what we do. And then at the end, we're waiting down here. The goal is that they purchase a product. And when that happens, then they're going to be moved from wherever they are, any of these campaigns. They're going to be taken off of those and moved down here to this goal, and then boom, marketing is over. Right now, we're gonna presumably, I might add an onboarding campaign or something like that. But marketing is over. Now we're talking about onboarding or something like that, delivery of the product. So that is a way to use conditions to make sure we're speaking to people in a relevant way. The problem with this is a couple things. One is that the main thing, I guess, really is that you'll notice too, by the way, that if if they have this problem with cats, they'll get on this campaign, say that campaign has 10 emails. At the end of that, it's going to go and check and see if they have the next problem. Well, let's say they have a problem with cats, and then, let's say they don't have a problem with cats. They don't have a problem with Valentine's Day. They're down here with other problems, and then all of a sudden they click a link about cats. And they now have your first problem. Well, shoot, they're never gonna see that cat information because they're already down here on this lower part of the funnel. And what you do wanna, in general, I think you wanna avoid sending too many emails to the same contacts at the same time, right? You wanna be sending them a specific sequence of emails. You don't wanna be like sending them stuff about cats and stuff about Valentine's Day and stuff about everything else all at the same time. So this is kind of designed to send them one series of of emails at a time. And so what happens here is if you find out they've got a problem about cats, something up here, after they're already down here, well, then they're just not going to get that information. And so that is not ideal. If your business has this kind of setup, we have another tool, or another campaign rather, called the Advanced Recycler, which is a little fancier. And I'll show you, I've actually pulled this up in my account here. Let's see, is it? The problem that this thing solves, the Advanced Recycler, is that you want to make sure that ultimately your people, you can use these sequences about a particular problem as a long-term lead nurture sequence. You just want to make sure that they're getting the most relevant information to them first, right? If they say they've got a problem about cats, let's talk to them about cats first. If they then say they've got a problem about Valentine's Day, let's then talk to them about Valentine's Day next. And if you run out of things that you know they have problems with, well, let's just talk to them about some other stuff, because you want to stay in touch with your leads over time. So the idea here is that we're prioritizing the stuff that we know that they're interested in first, and then we're going to talk to them about the other stuff later. And then if we learn again down the road that they've got another problem we address, we'll then start talking to them about that problem as soon as we can. So what does this do? It adds the contact here when the record's first created. And what do? We're going to just add them to our long-term lead nurture campaign, and then we're waiting until the goal is reached. And the goal is that the problem is updated with one of the problems that we know that we solve. So maybe we don't know who this person is. We're just going to put them on a generic long-term lead nurture sequence. But then if we learn about them, maybe there's an email in that long-term lead nurture sequence that asks them, hey, do you have a problem with cats or Valentine's Day? Click here, and we'll give you some more information, right? And so then we update the record with cats, and then that goal is achieved, and they're going to move over here. And what's going to happen? We're going to change tags, just say that, hey, I don't know, pause. Oh, we're pausing the long-term lead nurture campaign. That's what we're doing. First of all, pause the series of emails they're already getting, and then we're just going to add a tag that says they've seen the cats campaign, right? And then boom. Well, actually, we should do that later. This is actually a little bit weird. You should fix this. All right, let's fix this. Can I do that? Oh, what have I done? I've zoomed in here now. I've got all kinds of problems. All right, we're not going to fix it right now. We should. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say we're pausing the long-term lead nurture campaign, and then it's going to ask a question. Has this person seen the cats campaign yet? If they've seen the cats campaign already, then no further action required. If they have not seen it, then we're going to go down here and say, well, are they on these other campaigns right now? Because I don't want to keep sending multiple emails all the time, right? So if they're on these other campaigns, then we're going to just wait 3 days, and then we're going to check again in 3 days. Are they still on that campaign? Yes, they are. Wait 3 days, and then we're going to check again. Are they still on that other campaign? No, that campaign got stopped. So boom, now we're going to tell them about cats. And once we're done with that, we're going to add them to the long-term lead nurture resume the long-term lead nurture campaign and finish it. Now, what we've got here is a situation where they're on long-term lead nurture. They're always hearing from us, but as soon as they tell us they've got one of the particular problems that they solve, they're going to hear about that problem. They're not going to get bombarded with a bunch of different emails about a bunch of different problems all at once, but we're going to make sure that they are hearing about the appropriate information at the appropriate time. All right, so that's one way to manage the situation. Another thing that, to be honest, that I would probably do here, a little change to this that I would make, is that I would just probably run people through these, once they've said, I've got a problem with cats, I'd probably just, run them over here, tell them about cats, and then run them over here to Valentine's Day problems, and then run them down here to other problems, and then ultimately put them back down on the long-term lead nurture sequence. So there's little changes you can make to this that may improve it. It depends on how you want to communicate with your folks, but this is the kind of thing that you can do to make sure that you're telling people about the stuff they've just said they're most plagued by, right? The problems that they're dealing with. Okay, so that is how you use campaigns to target people by problem. And then, of course, in those campaigns, when you're telling them about cats, that can be emails, that can be text messages, that can be a call from your sales rep saying, hey, I saw this article about cats that I thought you might be interested in, whatever it might be. Okay. Next, to target by stage, you want to create a high-level map of the stages and move context using goals. This should be pretty obvious, but basically, you say here, a trigger that happens, a field is updated, sales stage is equal to new prospect, okay? Cool, so when the sales stage, that says temp, it's temporary, it's my test account, but you should have a field called sales stage with each one of your sales stages in it. We talked about that in video 2, I think. So here's a trigger. Sales stage is updated and is now equal to new prospect, then boom, they should be added here and then move down to the next step. They're gonna get maybe the recycler or whatever it might be, but next phase, right? Sales stage, another goal. Sales stage is updated and it now equals appointment scheduled. Good, let's stop with that marketing and start with the appointment follow-up. This is really straightforward. Definitely, you wanna be talking to people about the stage they're at in the life cycle. So this is how we would take care of that. This recycler here is that whole previous campaign I talked about. They're going to stay in there until they're moved on to the next stage in the life cycle. And then as soon as this goal is triggered, we can pull them off of that campaign and then move them on down the road. So that is how we communicate with them by sales stage. Very simple, using goals. Next, for websites, how do you create those relevant experiences on the web, right? So people come to your website. Most businesses deliver a generic experience. They say, hey, this is us. This is what we do. You have the power, because you're an Ontraport user, to deliver a more relevant experience and talk to them about the problems that they have. There's a couple of ways you can personalize pages. The first is using, this is basic, merge data, right? You put their name on the page. Hi, Landon. Or, hey, your offer expires on January 23rd, or your renewal date is March 15th. Those are dates that can live in each individual contact record. If we know who they are based on a cookie or whatever, then we can show that information to them when they visit their page. How do you do that? You just merge the fields onto your page. This is the page builder here. You just insert a merge field, and any one of the fields on the record, in the record there, can be merged onto the page. So first name, last name, email, all that stuff. Get creative with this. Now, hot tip on this though, we don't always know definitively who your visitors are. So if you have a merge field on the page and we don't know who that person is, we don't want that to be blank, right? We don't want it to say, hi, comma, blank, exclamation point. Don't forget default merge values, okay? So you don't want to have blanks on the page. How do you do that? You go to Contacts, Settings, and then Default Merge Fields. And then you go in there and it'll have all the fields in your contact record, and you can just type in what you want the value to be in case we don't know who they are. So instead of hi Landon on the page, it'll say hi friend, because you typed in friend in those default merge fields. So make sure that if you're merging data onto the page, you do use default values so that you don't end up with blanks. Okay, the first tip though is that we identify visitors on your page basically in two instances. One is if you link to the page using the landing page dropdown in your link builder. So what does that look like? It looks like this. If you go in, oops, hold on, that's not it, this one here. So if you link, this can be done from an email, this can be done from another page, it can be done from, I think that's about it. Email and another page, yeah. So you can type in a URL in here, but we won't necessarily know who they are. But if you use this tool here, click on Ontraport landing page, and it'll give you a list of your pages, and you select that in there, and that's how you click a link. Then we're gonna create that link in such a way that we identify that person when they click it. Okay, so that'll work as long as you do that. Or if you link to a PURL, which is a personal URL, it's the other way you can make sure that those merge fields will work. And the way you do that is in the merge field dropdown. So if you're typing out an email, you say, hey, visit this link, and then you click the merge field button and scroll way to the bottom. It'll be after all your contact fields. There'll be this section called pearls, and it'll have a list of all your landing pages, and you can select one, and it'll insert a URL when and this would be like in an email, right? And the reason somebody might do that is because it's kind of cool. It puts their name sort of in the URL itself, so it looks like a personal URL. And then they click it, and we know who they are. All right, so that's a couple of tips for using merge data on pages. Don't forget your merge values. All right. The other thing that you can do is conditional blocks. Super powerful tool that you have at your fingertips as an Ontraport user. How do you do this? Well, so first of all, what is a conditional block? A conditional block is basically a chunk of your website that can be hidden or shown based on the information that you have stored in the visitor's contact record. Again, we have to identify, we have to know who these people are, and we'll know that from the cookie. That means that they'll need to have clicked a link recently from one of your emails, or logged in, or filled out a form recently. We cookie them as often as we can because some people clear their cookies, so we try to reset that cookie all the time. So this should work. Let's see, here's how it goes. Go to the block, click on the little gear on the side of the block, and you'll see this screen, which is, now you're editing this particular block. So, and then you'll click onto display settings, which is one of the items there'll be a list of settings here. You'll click on display settings, and this is what you'll see is device display, whether you want to show this block on mobile or desktop or both. When should it be displayed? Immediately on page load, or you can delay. But this is the one we're talking about right now. Who should we display this block to? Well, let's show it to some identified visitors. I want to talk through real quick what all these mean. The default, of course, is everyone. We're going to show the block to everyone. Mostly pages, the whole page gets shown to everyone. That'll be the default. Anonymous visitors only. That means people we don't know who they are. They don't have a cookie that identifies them. So anonymous visitors will see this only. If they're not an anonymous visitor, if we do know who they are, we'll hide the block. Now, identified visitors only. Okay, we don't care who it is, but we need to know who they are. If we know who they are, they're not anonymous, then we'll show the block if you choose this setting. Next says some identified visitors. So not all identified visitors, but just some of them. If I select that, then it's going to give me conditions. Well, which identified visitors do I want to show it to? Well, we can say I'm going to show it to people whose problem field contains cats or Valentine's Day, right? So if I want to talk to them about cats, show this block to people who I know who they are, and their contact record contains the field, the value cats. And then boom, that block will show up, and any blocks that they don't match will not show up. Okay, very powerful way of, well, putting your solution to their problem front and center, right? Definitely be thinking about doing this. You can also use the same tool, conditional blocks, to target them by stage, right? At the beginning of the relationship, you know that they're not a customer. You know that they're not in your free trial process. They're not waiting to get a demo or have a consultation call. Well, you should be here at the beginning of the process. You should be pushing them to the trial. So the call to action on your website can be relevant to where they're at in the stage of their buying cycle with you. So at first you'd be talking about, hey, get a trial of our services, or hey, sign up for a consultation, or whatever the first step is. Once they've done that, then it makes sense to say, hey, time to buy, right? Here's an offer for you. So you would no longer show the first block, you'd show the second block. Once they've purchased, then stop telling them to purchase. Say, hey, join our implementation call, or make sure that you log in and set your profile picture, or make sure that you're using it. You haven't logged in and downloaded your stuff yet, or here's instructions on how to get the most out of your appointment, or whatever it might be, right? And then once they've implemented, they've been with you for a while, finally stop talking about that. You certainly don't want to be telling them to take a trial again. You want to say, hey, by the way, did you know that you can help us out by telling your friends? All right. Also, of course, special short-term offers can be made by stage to certain people. when we know who they are. And other people don't need to see that stuff. So very powerful tool, lots of creative uses for things like conditional blocks. So it's actually not that complicated, right? We're collecting data about what their problems are. We do that all the way starting with the ad. We segment them from the pages they visit, from the links they click, from the stuff that your salesperson tells about you. You store that in a field, and we keep track of that, right? Same thing with sales stage. We know where they're at because we keep track of their sales stage in a drop-down field. We talked about that in stage 2. Finally, it's not that hard. Use campaigns to segment your list and speak to each category of each segment of your audience about what they're most interested in. This is what this tool is designed to help you do, and it's designed that way because this is what works. And that's it. These are the fundamentals of marketing. Get these things done first. Why? Because traffic is expensive and hard, right? So to circle all the way back to the beginning, this is the plugging the holes in your leaky bucket stuff, right? You want to make sure that you're converting as many of your leads as possible because getting leads is expensive and time consuming. And if you're getting leads and then dropping them into a leaky bucket, a bucket that doesn't convert well, and it doesn't convert well because you're not speaking to them about their problems in a relevant way, well, then you're just wasting all that time and money that you spent filling the bucket, right? And that is definitely not the way to do it. So this is the fundamentals. Make sure you're speaking relevantly to your audience. This is how you get it done. And then go confidently filling the bucket because you know that you're doing a good job following up with your leads. That's the message for the day. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week with something else. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but we'll figure it out. Talk to you next time.